Okay, well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to this meeting of the Cabinet on Monday, the 1st of December. So it will soon be Christmas. We're here in the Harbour District Council offices in the Council Chamber in Adam and Eve Street. If there's a fire alarm tonight, there is not a drill. It is actually the real thing. So if anyone has to leave, we'll leave through the relevant fire doors and meet on the car park on Mill Hill. We'll start the agenda with apologies for absence. We do have two apologies for absence. We've got apologies from Councillor Asher, who has some family issues she's dealing with this evening, and also Councillor Beagle, who also is tied up this evening. So those apologies have been received and have been registered. We've got declarations of members' interest under item 2. Are there any members' interests at all? No, that's okay. Now, I do intend to readjust the agenda this evening. We've got Councillor Finan with us this evening on the item which is listed as item 10, which is recommendations from the Services and Communities and Corporate and Performance Overview and Scrutiny Panels. So rather than Stuart have to sit here until goodness knows whatever time, we thought it would be a good idea to bring this item forward. So what I'll do at this precise moment is to ask if you can turn to page 109 of the agenda, where the report is listed there. It is a report that is under Councillor Beadle's name, but obviously I'll pick up the bits and pieces on there. The recommendations are listed and the reasons for the recommendations, and also extensive notes. Before I do that, I think it's a matter of courtesy. Councillor Finan, would you like to come in and actually give us some comments on this particular item, please?
Yeah, so the first meeting of the because obviously I'm the chair of the scrutiny and corporate and performance. So the first meeting that we had that were relevant to this report was on the 19th of June, and it was the first time that we used the new format for the scrutiny meetings, and that meeting was obviously looking at the performance report for Q3. The information that was presented at that report was extensive, and using the new format, we were able to have a very, very positive discussion about the performance of the council at that point. We then, when we moved to the 18th of September, we had two further financial reports. We found that the layout of the new system was a little bit cumbersome in terms of the amount of paperwork, and so I know that there were discussions had at that point in time. And following on from the performance in Q4 and for Q1 of this financial year, we then had a discussion about the voluntary sector grants, which did raise some questions amongst the panel, and subsequent lines of discussion being detailed in the report.
Right, thank you for that. I'm just going to draw members' attention, and normally Councillor Beagle would be responding to that and would be putting the report. I'll pick up the points on this. The recommendations are listed to review and respond to the recommendations put forward by the relevant communities and corporate and performance overview and scrutiny panels, and the dates are listed exactly as Councillor Finan just outlined there. One or two things I would just pick up on is that on page 113, there are all of the comments and recommendations that are listed down there. There are one or two gaps that are there, and they're there for very good reason, because obviously it's something that we can pick up tonight, for example, as a panel. I mean, there's a question mark there about the parishes, and should the parishes be getting the funds from the community grants, which I think is a very valid question. It's certainly something that we've supported. We've found the parishes an extremely capable and very interested partner for the provision of these funds into the communities, and I think our officers have had very good receptions in everything that they've actually done with regard to the discussions they've had there. There's obviously the question raised about more money for Kibworth. Obviously we have a structure And at this precise moment in time, I don't think we are mindful to extend or amend the levels because obviously we've structured it in a certain way, and I know our officers spent a considerable amount of time, as did the panel, in debating and discussing that. When you turn over to page 254, there's obviously some detail on there as well, and as I said, the officers have certainly been looking into that and have provided us with some background information. As you move down onto page 115, there are terms of reference for the voluntary sector and equalities assessment, and I know our officers are looking into both of those. There's also commentary there about the panel supporting voluntary sector grant funding, and that's something I think we need to note, and at some time we may well revisit that, I think, in the future. I think those are the general comments that we picked up that were highlighted from the panels, and most of the other stuff that has been detailed in there has been picked up by the officers, including next steps and outcomes. Councillor Finan, have I missed anything that, do you think, from the points that you've raised or the points that are listed in the agenda before I open it up to the members?
No, I think all the recommendations are detailed within the report, but just from a corporate and performance aspect, the last meeting regarding the voluntary organisations, I think the last recommendation there, that those organisations seeking voluntary sector grant funding be invited to address the panel in support of their application for funding. I think at the present time, there's only 4 organisations that are currently getting voluntary sector grants. So, well, voluntary sector funding, I should say. And I think that will be something to look at in further detail.
Thank you for that. Okay, let's open it up. Any of the members like to make any comments at all? Councillor Wood-Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I think it's great that we're actually now receiving recommendations from scrutiny. So for a long time we haven't. So even on that basis, I think this is a great success. So thank you, Councillor Finan, for your work so far.
Yeah, I think it's really a huge positive and very important step forward. Councillor Knight.
Yeah, so we looked at the core grant funding for this. Is that correct, Leader? Yeah. So this is where, and I understand, and I'd like to know where we are now with the process in terms of the. It was put forward that any of those groups be allowed to come along and put their case and talk to us. If we felt it necessary. I'd like to know if that is still going to go ahead, actually, because I personally feel it's, our core grant funding groups that receive money do an incredible job within our communities. So, and I desperately feel that this needs to be looked at. And so, yeah, I'd like to know if they are going to be invited to present themselves. Okay. Either to us at Cabinet or to a further scrutiny panel.
Okay, let's get some officer comments on that. Yeah.
So at the scrutiny panel, there was a report which detailed the funding the council provides and information about each of the organisations that received that funding. I think on the day it became clear that the panel would have appreciated those organisations coming along to the meeting and putting forward their views, and the panel having the opportunity to question them and challenge them around to what extent do they deliver for Harborough. I think that's some learning we can take away in terms of how we develop work programmes, and myself and Ella are meeting with Councillor Finan and with Councillor Anderson later this week to talk about some of the things about how do we help scrutiny move forward and continue to develop. And potentially when we look at the work programme next year, it might be that members saying we'd like to redo that one and have those organisations come along because they are receiving funding each year, and the panel want to make sure that it's justified.
Oh, good point. Good point. As a final, do you want to come back on that at all? Or?
Yeah, so I know that we're currently in discussions about the work plan for the final meeting of this financial year. on the 19th of March, we're currently looking at possibly adding the voluntary sector organisation presentations to that meeting. So it is still within the work plan, and it's still something that we're looking at bringing in before this financial year's out.
Thank you. Councillor Gordon, do you want to add anything?
Yes, thank you, Chair. It's just on the issue of the £1 million grant fund, which obviously we're now into the second year on, and you'll know from being a member of the grants subcommittee the wide nature of parishes and organisations that come along there seeking funding. And it is a large sum of money, and some of the money that we have reserved for particular communities based on their size and population and so on is extremely large. And if it's being suggested that parish councils should be excluded from applying some of that funding, I would be very concerned about that, because parishes outside of the town are the main delivery body, whether it be the town council in Lutterworth, large parish councils in Broughton Astley, Kipworth, Great Glen, in my area, in Thurnby and Houghton and Scrapclough. It's very difficult to see what voluntary bodies could come forward in such a short space of time that we have before we are abolished, to step up to that plate. Now, I'm completely in favour of voluntary organisations, don't get me wrong, but some of the schemes that the parish councils are delivering or looking to deliver are quite complex, and often they are seeking to invest in services and facilities that they provide that have frankly been starved of funding for the best part of 15 years. And so this fund is trying to correct some of that underfunding. And I think it will be a very difficult situation if they were to be told, well, you'll just have to fund that yourselves from the parish precept, because the kind of money that we've been able to put in, it would mean very large increases in parish precepts. Meanwhile, what would then be happening? Would we be able to deliver the £1 million grant programme? And I think you would have a big question mark whether other organisations could step up and do that in such a short space of time. But just to repeat my original point, a lot of the parishes are investing. We had Tilton on the Hill here, didn't we, last week, trying to get their street lights improved because they're still responsible for street lights in that village. So I think we need to see the wider picture here, working in partnership with our parishes on this scheme, to my mind, is absolutely critical. Thank you.
I think what I would add to that, if I may, is that, and I think very good points there, Simon. I think what I would add to it is that this is very much for me a twin track approach. I think our parishes are providing tremendous input and a huge amount of assistance on this. And I think the independent organisations who are coming forward are equally invested in what we're trying to do. I think one of the things that I found incredibly refreshing in all of this with regard to £1 million grants is that we've had people coming along asking for just a few £100s, and then the next application is for tens of thousands. I mean, these grants are making huge differences to a lot of people and a lot of groups. And I wouldn't want to see the parishes excluded. I think that would be folly to do that. I think we have a good scheme. Okay, we can tweak things as we go along, but we have an excellent scheme. It's working well. It's supporting our communities. It's delivering for our communities, and I think it's very important we continue doing that. And I think it's important we continue the twin track. Our officers the other evening, and you will know because you were there, as was Councillor Woollyworth and myself, were getting huge praise from everybody who spoke about the contribution that Harbour District is making to all of these applicants, to help them, assist them, and to guide them in the ways to make sure that they are putting in valid applications. So I think the whole thing is so important. Where we are now with the scrutiny panels. I think this is really a hugely positive step forward. It's doing exactly what we should have been doing years ago. And again, it's very, very important. And I thank the scrutiny panels for what they're doing on that, and particularly the two chairs. I think there's a lot of work over the next numbers of weeks that's going to have to be done to deliver on a lot of this. Looking at this, unless anybody else has got any other comments, and the officers at all? Sorry, Stuart, I couldn't see a hand above the desk. Please come in.
No, that's okay. No, what I was going to say was in relation to the scrutiny panel that I'm on, the conversation that we had in the presentation in the meeting. This is all about the core funding that we give to voluntary sector organisations. Yeah. And when we're talking about that, it's only £69,000 in total to 4 organisations that run across the district. So, these organisations aren't actually getting an awful lot from us, but they deliver very important services. And I think it's just making sure that we obviously looking into this and making sure that they're getting adequate money for the services that they're delivering as well.
Good point. Well made. Absolutely. Anybody want to contribute at all, Leah?
It's not necessarily a contribution. I'm just very conscious we might complete the loop by feeding back to scrutiny to confirm whether or not the recommendations are agreed. I think from what I'm understanding that you couldn't support removing the parish councils from the community grant programme, recognising, as you say today, they're a very key delivery partner of support of the programme. You need a body capable of delivering, especially on complex projects, and they're also an accountable body, someone you can genuinely hold to account. And in terms of the KIB, funding is allocated through a designated model, and you don't propose to change this one specific community at this stage.
But we are noting and making sure that the very valid points that have been raised by scrutiny panels are being picked up. And I think importantly, it's absolutely right and proper that we should be looking at these core bodies and making sure that we're doing everything we can to support, and that everything's being monitored as it should be. Okay, so I think what we can do is move that this has all been noted. The officers have picked up the details, and the response will be returned to the scrutiny panels. Yeah, so I'm happy to move that. Is there a second?
Happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Anybody else want to make any comments? No? Okay, all those in favour? Anyone against? That is carried. Thanks very much, Stuart.
Thanks very much, Leader. Have a pleasant evening, and I hope the rest of the meeting goes swimmingly.
You have a good evening. Lovely to see you. Thank you very much. Cheers now.
Cheers.
Okay, we now go back to the next one, which is the information exchange from portfolio holders. I've got my report here, which I will start off with, if I may. I must start by reporting that our North City South proposal was successfully submitted on Friday to government. The final proposal was the culmination of months and months of hard work with leaders, chief executives, and many members of staff working behind the scenes. I feel we should all be very proud excuse me, of a proposal that sits across all political colours and focuses on what is best for our communities in terms of delivering efficient services, making savings, and still being close enough to our communities to ensure focus and care. I know we all absolutely agree that Harbour District Council is not broken. It doesn't need repairing, but the government have made decisions, and we are being charged now with having to get on with this and deliver it. I'm really pleased to report that I had a message from Neil O'Brien MP, who has today come out in support of North City South. It is great to hear that our MP now publicly supports our proposal. I've been very clear from the start that our proposal will not see a land grab from the city. It will not agree to any change in boundaries, and we will protect the identity of our district and its village communities from the city. We have delivered that through our proposal, and the MP now recognises it, which is great. And when I do get the copy of the letter actually arrive, I will make sure that is shared with.
Yeah, could I just intervene there then, just to clarify that, because I think the position now that the submissions are closed, it's critical what the position of the MPs that cover Harbour District. So my understanding is, with what you said today, that 2 out of 3 have now confirmed they support
Yes.
North City South. 1 hasn't.
Yeah,
You did have a meeting with her. Can you update us
I
on?
can tell you that at the moment, Mr. Costa, Alberto Costa, has for many weeks confirmed his support for North City South. We had an email today in from his office saying that the letter would be with us today. So we are quite confident to refer to that letter and say we've got it. I don't have an update at the moment from Alicia Kearns, but I do intend to seek a meeting with her in the next few weeks, because let me put it this way, there's a very clear understanding from my side that this is only part of the work. We've only scratched the surface. The details, which I'll come on to in a moment, will cover off some of the other aspects, but it's important for us to note that we're only at the early stages of this. The submissions have gone in. Now the real work starts of actually convincing government ministers and also the civil servants in London that ours is the right bid. If we're going to go down this path, ours is the right bid, and we hope that they select it. And that will require a fairly high level of lobbying and also meetings with our members of parliament, because after all, let's be absolutely sure and certain of one thing. Our members of parliament sit in Westminster. They are uniquely placed to be able to put these arguments across. And I hope that we can ensure that we get the support from Mr. O'Brien and Mr. Costa and Alicia Kearns to say, you know, we're with you and we support you. I think it's very important. So that's where we are with that. But no, we 2 out of the 3 we've got it in writing, and we will be seeking a further meeting on this, because I think it is very, very important. For clarity, and I'll move on now, and I apologise if I duplicate this. For clarity, the next stage will be the government consulting on the proposals received between January and March. However, I have to say I'm not clear on what bid the city will consult on. Will it be their legally compliant base bid, which includes taking the whole of Oby, Wixton, Blaby and Harborough into the city, or their preferred bid, which is now an enlarged city with extended boundaries? And I would emphasise, for absolute clarity, neither of these outcomes are acceptable for me. We've made it very clear, and have always made it very clear, about the protection of the boundaries of Harbour District. Moving on, I can now confirm that the date of the first and symbolic planting of our tree in the new rewilding project. We will be planting an oak tree on Friday the 19th of December 2025, and all members have been invited. The Lord Lieutenant has been invited, and we have asked they extend the invite to royalty, who knows they may wish to come along and join us ceremonially, to mark the planting of the very first tree, but more importantly, holding it in 2025, the year in which the project was initiated, which I think again is a vitally important thing that we do. I can also confirm tonight our peer review 12-month follow-on visit has been put back and won't be happening in December. We'll discuss options with the LGA in the new year. I would also like to formally welcome Sports Direct to the town. I feel this national brand is a great addition to our town centre and will bring more footfall into an already vibrant town here in Market Harborough. There are other openings too, including Bunny and Clark, the new banking hub and Furnitureland. Businesses are choosing to come and open in Market Harborough, which is a sign of confidence in what we as a council are doing. I must also thank the officers who started the installation of the new car parking machines. Residents and businesses have long wanted machines that are quicker and easier to use, and we have now delivered them. The rollout will continue for a couple of weeks, including over in Lutterworth. Christmas is a season of goodwill. I would like to reiterate my thanks to the Market Harborough Building Society for their kind generosity in sponsoring the tree in the town square, and to the children who decorated it. It's really started our celebrations off in style. Finally, as this is our last Cabinet meeting before Christmas, I would like to take this opportunity to wish all the Cabinet, all our residents and all our staff a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. I sincerely hope they all spend some valuable time relaxing with family and friends. This year has been a year of unprecedented change with local government reorganisation on the horizon, and I personally know how hard officers have worked. So please take time to recharge the batteries before it all starts again in the new year, and then we'll be preparing for implementation of a huge amount of this. So thank you very much. I'm happy to take any questions that you may have or any comments. Okay, everybody happy? I can see smiles. Smiling faces are always okay. Okay, the next one I'll take is Councillor Gordon. Do you want to give us your update, please?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'm afraid I've got a little bit to get through tonight because we've had a ministerial statement from Mr. Pennycook, Planning Minister, so I need to update you on that. There's good ongoing progress on preparing statements of common ground with various consultees and stakeholders on various matters concerning the local plan under preparation. These are aimed at addressing any outstanding concerns that stakeholders and partners have on the local plan. So ideally they can be mitigated in time for the plan to be submitted in spring 26. Also, there's good ongoing work taking place through cooperative discussions across the local authority boundaries with our partners. That's obviously critically the City Council and the County Council. This is to ensure the local plan has a smoother path to submission for the examination as possible, if this is what the Cabinet and the Council resolve to do in the spring, i.e. submit it. Good progress is also ongoing concerning pulling together the integrated spatial strategy story that will accompany the local plan on its journey through submission and into examination to enable members and then the examination inspector to understand the spatial strategy, culture, ethos that sits behind the local plan and what it aims to achieve for the district overall. Work is also ongoing towards finalising the viability picture to support the development of the community infrastructure levy charging schedule across the district. More information will be brought to members on this in due course as the work develops. Now, I know that this issue of how we fund the infrastructure to go with what will be substantial new development is absolutely critical and a major concern to members, and we had a lot of discussion on this at the last panel meeting. And members, I appreciate, and I do feel very strongly that if the development is going to take place, we need to have a way of funding improvements and infrastructure right across the piece in relation to highways and transport, school provision, health, and all the other things you think of. Currently, we have to do through 106. So this work, as I say, is critical. It is a priority for the council, and there will be key decisions for members next year going forward. And just to clarify then, so at the moment through 106, we have to negotiate everything with developers. Nothing's taken as read. We have to justify it, and it has to be CIL compliant. If we move to community infrastructure levy, then we will have a charging schedule, and provided that is agreed, then that is what developers will have to pay. It'll be like a roof tax on each property that is built. So it's a clearer system, easier understood, and hopefully, as I say, will enable us to secure critical funding that we need to deliver that infrastructure. It was announced by the Planning Minister of State in a ministerial statement last week that councils preparing local plans under transitional arrangements, and that of course includes us, will need to commence a review of their local plan next year. So what this means is that probably before our local plan is completed, we will have to start on another one. This is likely to mean we will need to commence the review that is under preparation prior to it being adopted. This is linked to the government's, this is directly linked to the government's commitment to deliver 1.5 million new homes in this parliament. The minister also announced last week that the compulsory duty to cooperate has been abolished. I'll repeat that, the duty to cooperate has been abolished, because some of you will be thinking how much work and how much angst and problems that caused us. Although so much work, good work is currently being progressed and ongoing that will continue have to be cooperative work with our neighbouring authorities because an important investment towards the eventual adoption of the local plan. The important message is, though, that the duty to cooperate is no longer a national policy requirement. Okay. Key decisions coming forward in the future. It's programmed that the introductory report, going back to the community infrastructure levy, will come to Cabinet on the 9th of February, and more will follow on this in the coming weeks. We are all familiar, I think, with the proposed timetable for the local plan through to proposed submission, and that's programmed to come to Cabinet on the 2nd of March 26 and then be considered by full council for submission to the planning inspector for its independent examination on the 16th of March. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions.
No, just before I bring questions in, David, do you want to add anything to that at all? I know it's unusual to do this on the update from the obviously some of the revelations that Councillor Gordon's just outlined there, particularly about duty to cooperate, etc. You may want to add something before we bring the question on.
And only to say, Chairman, that the announcement last week in the ministerial statement was obviously without rehearsal. We weren't aware that those were coming. What the government have actually said about plan review is that they're asking or requiring councils to get to what they call Gateway 1, and this terminology will be unfamiliar because it's the brand new system under the planning and infrastructure bill. It's still a bill, but it will soon be an act, and the Levelling Up and Regeneration Act. Gateway 1 is the first stage of assessment, rather than the current system where we request advisory visits from the inspector. We've had one recently. They will be handed down to us as part of the system, and Gateway 1 will be the first of those continuous assessments, if you like. If you liken it to an assessment or an assignment at university, it becomes more of a continual assessment process rather than all on an examination. So that's where they require us to get to by the 31st of October next year. As regards the duty to cooperate, a little while ago it was removed as a specific legal requirement. That was done in 2023-4, but it was still a policy requirement of the government that we needed to meet to enter the examination. Basically, it was one of those requirements on day one. Have you met the policy requirement? It's that's been removed by the government last week. So it's no longer a hurdle on day one, but obviously it's still good practice to smooth the progression of the local plan through the examination. Thank you, Chairman. Hope that was useful.
Thank you, David.
Take any questions.
Aaron, what's coming?
I think David's probably answered most of my questions. So my point was going to be duty to cooperate was removed by Neil O'Brien, and it was a policy alignment test, wasn't it, that we had to undergo after that, the new regime. So is that what they've now done away with?
Well, I think David's explained that, yeah, it went, but it was still a policy requirement. David will correct it. My understanding was that it was still critical to your examination. Mm-hmm. So there's a thing called the showstopper. If you couldn't demonstrate that you could pass that at the beginning of the examination, you couldn't proceed with the rest of it. So you couldn't convince the inspector that you've done that properly, sufficiently. I remember it's duty to cooperate. You need to demonstrate that you've cooperated. You don't necessarily agree with everyone all the time, but you've got to be able to prove you've done the thing properly in the process. So it was policy. What's happened now is it's gone completely. But I would just point out that if we hadn't have done it, we wouldn't be where we are now. David will correct me again if I'm wrong, but we wouldn't have passed the 80% test, would we, David, if we hadn't have put in the additional requirement that the city gave us?
No, not
explain that.
Come on, David.
Through you, Chairman. None of that work we've done on the duty to cooperate has been wasted. It's all important to establish the story for the inspector, as we're still in the quite complex two-tier system. So all of the work we've done with our partner councils on multiple borders and our other stakeholders like the Integrated Care Board, the police, etc. It's all valuable work in our tank. None of it's been wasted. Councillor Dalton's absolutely right. There were 2 tests on day 1 of an examination until last week. One of them was you needed to pass the duty to cooperate, and that was a judgment call for the inspector, so there was a degree of jeopardy there. And the other one was, have you prepared the plan in accordance with an up-to-date local development scheme? That was a straightforward yes or no. And at the last cabinet meeting, we approved a new local development scheme. So the straightforward answer to that will be yes. So those are the 2 pre-examination questions, and one of them that had jeopardy has been removed. Thank you, Chairman.
David. Darren, and then Jim.
Yes, so the final question that'll be on, excuse me, everyone's lips is, does that mean the unmet housing requirement has now gone? Although we'll carry on with this local plan, but in future.
Well, it doesn't change. It doesn't change our. The plan is the plan. We submit the plan, or we don't submit it. We can't pick and choose bits out of it. We're committed to this plan now. I mean, going forward, who knows? First of all, local government reorganisation, so that's going to obviously change the authorities and the whole makeup of whether they'll be able to meet their housing requirements, particularly if the city is expanded. But the city still says it has unmet need. What it hasn't done at this point, it hasn't quantified it. So the latter part of the plan, the last 5 years, it is unable to tell us what that unmet need is. So it's kind of work in progress, I think.
So what we've got at the moment, Simon, is basically we've got the current plan and the current rules under which we've complied. We've signed the duty to cooperate for that, and it's saved us 2,500 houses going under the old NPPF, and that effectively is where we are with it.
Yeah, it's also meant that we could proceed, unlike Oby and Wigston, who couldn't proceed because they didn't meet the 80% test, and we would have been not able to carry on with the plan if we hadn't have put that additional numbers in that we accepted
Okay.
Earlier on.
So it was a positive and right thing to do.
And you know, I have to say, if we'd accepted and got on with that even earlier in the last council, maybe we would now have had our plan in and submitted. Maybe it would be close to adoption, and maybe we wouldn't be having to cope with this lack of the 5-year supply thing.
Good points well made. Jim, do you want to come in?
I think really Councillor Woodywis has actually covered the point I was going to raise, but just for clarity then, the numbers, and as in terms of housing numbers, will that actually maintain as it is, as it stands?
So it doesn't change our local plan. Our Reg 19 local plan is what we have to submit. But that's not the end of the story, because the government is now saying we must start work on the next local plan next year. That's beginning of the process. So it might be an issues and option paper to understand where we are and what we're intending to do. But you've got to remember that we are still not meeting the government's full 723. So in the next local plan, we will have to say how we're going to get to that, how we're going to address it. My personal thinking is it won't be us that finishes that. We know that even we've done this in record speed, breakneck time. Even if we would try and repeat that in the middle of it, we're going to be abolished, aren't we? So we'll start it, but I don't think we'll finish it. That's just a personal view.
Anybody else? David, do you want to say anything else?
Not really, Chairman. Just to say, obviously, the government are sort of if anecdotally, the government is saying that congratulations to people who have gone under the transitional arrangements, and great to see local plans coming forward. But they're saying through you need to start a review that that there's they're serious about the delivery of those 1.5 million new homes. I think that's what they're saying through that there. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, David. Jim, do you want to give us your report?
Thank you, Chair. Yes. So the audit of the 24-25 accounts is well underway, as reported to the auditing standards at the end of October. The council has started the budget setting process for the next financial year. The Section 151 officer, along with the performance officer, has met all services in respect of current performance. Services have given their considerations in respect of both capital and revenue growth and savings for both year and over future years. The budget principles report is presented to Cabinet this evening, and this report sets out the foundations for the formal budget setting process that starts with the draft budget being presented to Cabinet in January, scrutinised later in January, and the final budget being approved by Cabinet and Council in February. Like the rest of local government, the council awaits the conclusion of the government's review of local government finance, the fair funding review. This review will feed into the provisional finance settlement that is expected to be announced by the government late December. However, following the policy statement that was issued by government a couple of weeks ago, this includes some further changes. Are likely. If they translate into provisional settlement, the possibility will possibly make council's medium-term financial positions less worrying. The Harbour Enterprise Centre Innovation Centres continue to have 100% occupancy. And onto the Symington building and Market Hall, remedial works at the Symington building is well underway and proceeding well. Further works being undertaken at the TSB is a LED lighting project, which is anticipated and will in due course start generating considerable savings. New roof at the Market Hall is now complete, including the reinstatement of solar panels, with all the scaffolding is now taken down. So tonight, Cabinet will be asked to consider a report on phase 2 of the Symington building redevelopment. And in respect of next year, the Cabinet will consider the draft 26-27 budget in January and the final budget in early February. And then later in February, Council will be asked to approve the 26-27 council tax budget.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody any questions, Darren?
It's more of a statement of gratitude, really. I believe that many councils struggle to get audited accounts, so I'd just like to pay tribute to Clive and his team and Sean for actually getting accounts ready for auditing.
Thank you. We're still going through the pain of audit, so we'll do the best we can. Thank you.
I like that, Clive. Anyone else? Okay, thanks. Yeah. Thank you very much. Okay, Jim, thank you very much. Darren, do you want to give us your report, please?
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so as we sit here, the wind's howling through the windows and it's drizzling outside. So the first item on here is flooding. As we approach winter, we are revisiting our emergency planning protocols and preparing to respond to any flooding incidents. Residents are advised to sign up to all the available flood alerts by the Environment Agency and to refer to the council's website for advice. Just to add on to that from a personal perspective, as one of the local flood wardens, obviously there's still leaf fall on the ground, so heavy rainfall will block your drain grates with leaf litter. So please check your grates, and if they're blocked, just poke it through, and if they are properly blocked, then report it to the county council on their website. Car parking, you've probably covered most of this already. So formal consultation on the new draft car parking strategy took place earlier this year, and the highlights of the responses received will be published shortly. The final strategy will then be brought to Cabinet for sign-off following consideration of any amendments. The new car parking machines are currently being installed in Market Harbour, and so far this is going well. There have been many positive comments received about the speed and ease of the new machines. The works are anticipated to be completed by the end of this week. Just as a reminder, there are no plans to increase the car parking charges. Environmental services are fleet of brand new refuse and recycling vehicles has now been ordered following procurement. These will be arriving in phases over the course of the next year. The procurement is now well underway for a new environmental services contract from April 2027 to cover all aspects, including refuse, recycling collections, green waste collections, trade waste collections, grounds maintenance and street cleansing. And that, I did that in one go. A number of bidders have been taken through to the next stage of the process. An invitation to submit initial tender, and I'm pleased to confirm there is strong interest. Empty properties. The environmental health team have recently had some considerable success in securing action on a number of empty properties in the district. The new strategy is already proving useful alongside a more proactive approach and the use of wider legislation such as community protection notices. That's it. Thank you.
I have to say, I think that we also should thank our staff who've been actually out helping people with the new machines. I know that they're very, very positively received, and also the staff, people were thanking the staff for being there, just to make sure everything was smooth and going through properly. Anybody, any questions at all for Darren at all? No? Any officer comment? No? Okay, thank you very much for that. Right, I think that concludes the information exchange for portfolio holders. We now move on to the champions update. There will be no champions update this evening. We now move on to questions to cabinet, and as far as I know, there aren't any questions to cabinet. The draft minutes of the cabinet on the 12th of November 2025. There have been amended minutes put on to CMIS, so everybody can pick them up there. I've got a copy here, which I'm assuming is the amended minutes. Yeah. Okay. Is everyone happy that I sign these as an accurate record? Somebody like to move it? Right. Moved by Councillor Knight, seconded by Councillor Gorton. All those in favour? Anyone against? That is carried. We'll now sign these. To sign that and put 1/12/2025. Soon be in 2026. There we go. Okay, we now move on to item 7, which is on page 15 of the documents that you have in front of you, which are the 2026-2027 budget and MTF budget principles, reserve strategy, and fees and charges, which I say is on page 15. I think, Jim, that's over to you to actually present this report.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so in February each year, the council is required to approve the council tax for the forthcoming year. And to achieve this, it has to prepare an annual budget that has to comply with statutory regulations, as well as its own constitutional and local corporate priorities. And prepare a medium-term financial strategy, MTFS, that aids future decision making. It's an essential part of the budget process, and it's the agreement of a set of budget principles. I think we probably want to point to particularly moving from a 5-year MTFS to a 3-year MTFS, which is 26, 27, 28, 29. If there are any questions or anything, or if Clive would like to add anything to that.
I think the move to the 3-year MTFS, Clive, is basically because we won't be here in 5 years' time, so it's prudent just to look at things logically for the next 3 years.
Absolutely the very reason.
Thank you very much indeed. Anything else you'd like to add at all, Clive?
Just the background really. This report is the first of the sort of 3 major reports that come through cabinet before the final budget goes to council in February. This report sets the foundation for the budget setting process, includes a number of principles within it around inflation indices to apply, the MTFS period, of course, our commitment to maintain a balanced budget over the MTFS period. It also sort of discusses the fair funding review and some potential impacts on the authority. We of course won't know the answer to that fantastic question until later on this month. It also includes the reserve strategy, which each year I ask Cabinet to agree, and then that goes forward to Council as well. And this year, with the updated fees and charges policy for you to agree that, and then the fees and charges will follow that to the next Cabinet meeting, which will issue those new fees and charges. In a nutshell, that's the report. I mean, it is quite long and it is quite extended. It provides a lot of evidence, supporting evidence to why I'm recommending to Cabinet those principles, but they're nothing that this council hasn't addressed in the last few years that I've been here. So, thank you very much.
No, I'd just like to say, Jim and Clive, thank you very much for the hard work you're doing on this already. I mean, it is exceptional. I mean, we've got 6 appendices here covering everything, you know, as you say, from discretionary fees right the way through to fees and charges. I think it is right and proper that we're doing a revision of the MTFS. I think that again is sensible, and we're very happy to take the officers' guidance on that. Has anyone got any questions at all to put to either Jim or to Clive on this document? Okay, everyone happy with it? Okay, would somebody like to move it?
Happy to move.
Right, that's
Yeah.
moved by Councillor Knight, seconded by Councillor Woodywis. Any other officer comments? No? All those in favour? Anyone against? That is carried unanimously. We now move forward to page 59, which is the mid-year Treasury Management Report 2025-2026. And that is Councillor Knight again. Jim?
Thank you very much, Chair. Yes, so mid-year Treasury Management Report. So it is recommended that the Cabinet note the mid-year Treasury Management Report for 25-26 Treasury activity and prudential indicators, and we recommend this report to Council. I haven't got anything else to add to this at this time. So, Clive, if there's anything further.
Sean, do you want to come in, Clive?
Sean, sorry.
Sean?
I've been Clive.
I think just to add a little context to the report, the the appendices largely come from our Treasury advisors who are MUFG, and there's some of our prudential indicators in there. So that goes through some of the areas like capital financing, borrowing limits, external debt, to show that we're meeting those indicators. I think some of the background to this is that the Bank of England base rate of interest has fallen from 5.25% to 4% over the last 12 months. It's expected to fall to 3.75% by the end of the year, and then 3.25% by the end of the following year, which means that some of the interest rates, some of the interest that we're getting to help our revenue position will start to come down towards that budgeted level, as opposed to where we are at the moment, which is about 700,000 over. So we'll talk about that a little bit more in the Q2 report to follow. But at the moment, we are overachieving on that income. We're getting an average rate of return of 4.31% on our balances compared to 4.1%, which is the benchmark. So we are slightly overperforming there as well. We also have some borrowings with the Public Works Loan Board. That's long-term borrowing. We are looking possibly to reschedule some of that. Either we can pay it back. Because the rate we're paying is now higher than we're getting in interest, or we can refinance it at a lower rate than we're paying at the moment. So there are some options that we got there. I don't have anything else at the moment.
And you'll be bringing some information forward, Sean, on the potential for refinancing and the.
Yeah, it's relatively small amounts. It's in the kind of tens to hundreds of thousands, low end.
Thank you very much indeed. Jim, anything else you want to add to that?
No, Chair, I'm happy to move.
Okay. So, does anyone want to make any more comments? No, well, that's been moved by Councillor Knight. Is there a seconder? I'll second it. Okay, so all those in favour, anyone against? That's carried. So we now move on. Thank you very much for that. We now move on to page 79, which is the 2025-26 performance report, financial outturn and corporate. This is a very extensive report. I had a good look through this myself, and there's certainly some points that I would just throw on the table before I hand over to you from Jim. I was looking particularly at the notes on page 93, where we talk about the external works of the Simonton building. I think it might be worthwhile just outlining a little bit on that, where we are and why we're doing what we're doing with the building. I think our officers might want to add something on that, and also, as you touched on earlier, Jim, about the business occupancies. Again, remarkable that we're on sitting on 100%, and that's on page 93. So perhaps we might get some comments on that as well. I then looked on page 94 about the implement of internal transformation strategy to maximise resources. I think it's important on the next steps there that we are making certain that the Cabinet and all members are kept fully informed on that, and I'm sure our officers will strive to do that. On the building, on the parish liaison, establishing a network there, I would just like to add there that we are developing a very much closer working relationship with parishes. The Chief Executive and myself have been visiting quite a number of parishes again recently, and I think we've got another one due in next week, where we'll be meeting 2 or 3 parishes next week, and I know that that's going to be interesting discussions. And I have to say, when we're meeting these parishes, they are really very grateful that we're going to talk to them. It's not stopping the criticism on a lot, on things and points they want to raise, but they're genuinely delighted that we're actually engaging and listening to them. And I think that's very, very important. So we've certainly got one next week, and I think we're also setting dates for Hallerton as well very shortly, Councillor Gordon, because I know you've raised an interest on that, and absolutely more than happy with the question you asked on that. We're talking about, and here also on page 95, about affordable homes, and obviously we do want to do all we can, and I think it's particularly important on a night like tonight that when we talk about anything to do with homes, we recognise that anyone sleeping out on the streets, it's as we're approaching Christmas, it's bad enough, but people who are sleeping out on the streets, we need to do everything we can to make sure that we help as much as we can. I also looked at page 98, where we were working with partners about householders to be more sustainable. And again, I think that's something that we do very much need to keep under review. I think I've only got a few more bits and pieces. Economic development strategy for Harbour District Council. Obviously important that we continue to keep addressing that. And on the district sort of dealings and education and training with young people in general engagement with the younger members of our community, so important that we actually keep at the forefront of our minds, taking every opportunity we can to engage and to get more input from the younger members of the community. I looked at page 105 as well. I'll just throw these out as I say. When I was looking particularly at stage 1 and stage 2 of the complaints, obviously we need to ask our officers to look in more detail at that and to come back to us. I didn't want you to think I hadn't read the report, so I thought I'd better add these in. And also we need to look at all the homeless, as I said, I think it's very, very important, which is covered there under HSHL 07, again on page 105. And there are certainly things on page 106 that we need to keep monitoring there. There's a list of things on there that we need to be monitoring. And certainly as well, we need to be making certain that we are doing everything we can to maintain where we have really good levels here again. And I know the officers will be doing that. I have also noted about officers getting the reimbursement for flu jabs, which I think is a very good idea, because obviously the importance and protection of the staff is very important. No doubt there might be 1 or 2 councillors probably asking the same question, but I just thought I'd highlight that as well. And finally, I think on the footfall data, footfall for Lutterworth and for Market Harborough, the indications are certainly for Harborough there's a downturn on the number, or we're below the target. And I think vibrancy is absolutely important, and we are striving to that. And I think the new businesses we're attracting into the town will be considerable contributory factors to actually getting the footfall up. So again, I think that's important. That's what I wanted to add. Jim, I don't know what you want to come in on there.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's fair to say that there are still some financial headwinds, and I think we're navigating those, as we go along. The position, I think, does reflect the inflationary impacts within the key contracted services such as waste, environmental operations, alongside the continued increase in homelessness demand. And I think we have considerably increased our homelessness provision,
Yes.
and I think I'm correct in saying we're something like a third of our usage is keeping that at bay with not having to house people into hotels, etc. So that is is greatly helping. Yeah, I mean, obviously, temporary accommodation and housing benefit, the subsidy gaps are there, and that remains a major driver of overspend. These challenges are broadly consistent, though, with national trends, and they continue to place a strain on the council's financial resilience.
Thank you, Jim. Well, I think the comment about headwinds is quite a good one. We were sitting here, we hardly hear ourselves speaking tonight with the gusts that are going on outside. Anybody, any comments at all? Anybody wants to say anything? Darren, please. Yes.
I mean, it's alluded to before, but RS14, which is the number of interventions on empty properties. So we've got a target of 8.75 and 24 so far. So I think that's to be commended. And it's all part of the new push. So.
Good point. Simon, anything you want to add? No? Okay. Any officer input at all? No? Everyone happy? Good. Want to move it, Jim?
Yes, happy to move.
So it has been moved by Councillor Knight, seconded by Councillor Woodywis. All those in favour? Anyone against? That is carried unanimously. We now move on to page 109, which is the... Yeah, we haven't. Sorry about that. 109. My apologies. I knew I'd do that. Following the old system. So we move on then from there to page 125. Well, they did that there to see if you were following the meeting. Okay. Okay, page 125, which is listed down there, and I think that's over to you. Don't know if you want to lead in on that.
It's the contracts and legal agreements for local plan. Yeah, that's the one.
Jolly good. Sorry about that.
Just on my toes.
I'll keep you on your toes.
I thought
Right,
you were going to let me go home then.
No. Sorry about that, guys. Okay, Simon, that's on to you, which is obviously the report on page 170.
Okay, thank you. So I mentioned earlier that we have got to where we are, the local plan, in a very short measure. In fact, a huge amount of work has been achieved, and many other councils have looked on as to how we've done that. And of course, part of the answer to that is, apart from the work of our staff, we have had to bring in additional support and specialists, consultants. There's just no way we could have delivered this in-house, and that has a cost to it. And we need to continue to support the policy team and the resources they've got in order to get the plan through to examination. And indeed, talking to the director of the day, we will need support during examination as well. So this report's really quite simple, Chair. In order to the officers to put in place the contracts and legal agreements above £50,000, cabinet approval is required. And this is basically just continuing the investment that we've already made, as I say, to see the local plan through. I have to say, not up for tonight, obviously, but I have to say, I don't think this will be the end of it because of the ministerial statement. to say that we're going to have to start work on the next local plan. And I look over at Clive. I think there's going to need to be further discussions about how on earth we are going to fund the next local plan. It seems to be, it's a bit like painting the Forth Bridge, isn't it? It used to be you'd got 5 years once you got your plan through, but now obviously being told that's not the case, we've got to start on the new one. So perhaps that's for another day, but just letting you know that this won't be the end of the
I
resource.
think you made a good point as well earlier when you said, unfortunately, the delays that we encountered with this current plan being resolved and moved forward have contributed to a bit of a bottleneck here. Darren, do you want to come in?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was going to ask this earlier, but the government has specified we need to get to gate 1. Are they going to drive the whole agenda by giving dates for each gate, or?
I don't know. They're certainly driving the agenda, that's for sure. In terms of having to get things done. Is David, are you still online through your chair?
Yeah,
Yeah, he's
I am,
there.
Chairman.
How many gateways will there be?
Well, the government indicated when they were introducing this new system that they'd be basing it on a set of tranches. They've said now that they aren't going down that road of tranches, but what they seem to be saying is they're going down a road of continuous assessment. So though there won't be tranches in terms of when the plan can be submitted or to formal stages, as would appear to have been the case a little while ago when we were first thinking about the new system, there will be this process of continuous assessment. So I'll look in and give some more information to members about anything I'm able to find on the number of gateways. When I can perhaps circulate a briefing note or something, Chairman, on that, if that's useful. But yeah, it's a process of continuing assessment. So there will be more than one gateway, but it's not as formal as the previous tranches were going to be, when we would have had to have done certain things to be able to submit the plan. That will still be in our gift, but there'll be a continuous assessment from government inspectors throughout the whole plan making process at a series of stages or gateways, as they call it.
I think it's important if you can, obviously, David, any assistance you can give us.
It's all on you.
Yeah, if you can share the information with Councillor Gorton, and then we can from there get the cabinet involved, and importantly get all members involved, so everyone knows exactly what's going on. Because I mean, this is something that's going to impact on everyone, and I think that sharing the information is something we would be extremely happy to do. Darren, does that answer your question?
Yes.
Yep, lovely. Anybody else want to come in at all? Any questions or anything? Any officer want to come in with any comments? No, everybody happy? No, Clive's coming in, yeah.
With regard to funding a new local plan, LGR, of course, is in 2 years' time, but there have been active discussions between strategic planning, David as Director of Planning, and myself in respect to allocating some funding to support that process.
Right. I think the government is doing a good job at keeping us all guessing. And we keep getting some ministerial letters floating through that.
Through your chair, there was some statement, there was some mention of funding being available in that letter.
117 million.
Yeah, how much of that we'll get, whether we have to bid for it, I don't know whether David can comment on that, but I think we should put a marker down, say that if there is any funding available, then we ought to be applying for it.
You're right.
And if it's about performance in terms of delivering in timescales, then I would have thought we would qualify.
We should be top of the list for
Exactly.
what we've done, I think. So do we know an exact figure, Clive, on that? What the government and Muti might be available?
No,
We don't.
no, it's our officer assessment of how much is needed in the next 20 months.
Okay, well, obviously, as soon as we get more information on that, we should be, as Councillor Gorton said, we should be after the money. David, do you want to come in?
Chairman, on the announcement, literally at the end of last week, I can't a chance to talk to colleagues in a great deal about it. The government were mentioning a figure of 14 million for councils that are in transitional arrangements, and they're up to start new local plans. So there were two elements to that, and this is probably getting into too much detail for tonight, but there was the councils that didn't meet the 80% that Councillor Galton referred to earlier, like Oby and Wigston, for example. They need to start their local plan and get to a point of Gateway 1 by June 2026. And our good selves who did meet the 80% have to meet the Gateway 1 by the 31st of October 2026. but there was a figure in there for both types of council of 14 million to support the commencement of new local plans.
Thank you, David. Yeah.
I was just going to mention, we are a little bit at risk of speculating in this meeting about what government intentions are when things were only announced on Friday, and subject to this decision is something very definitive that's before Cabinet to make.
We do need to get some information as soon as we can. I think we should be seeking clarification, and once we've got it, then sharing it and developing it. But there's so many letters coming in from ministers. Obviously, it does open up speculation. Anyone else want to come in at all? No? Okay. Simon, are you moving the recommendation?
Move the recommendation.
Okay, seconder. Mr. Woodywis. All those in favour? Anyone against? That is carried. We now move on to page 125, which is the report that is under your name, Climate Change and Neighbourhood Services. Over to you, Darren.
Thank you, Chair. Right, so this is to bring in the extension of the public space protection order for alcohol-related antisocial behaviour and the extension of the public space protection order on dog controls. So both the police and local authority are responsible for antisocial behaviour. I'll basically bridge this. So in 2016, we brought in the current PSPOs. They are now due to be extended, and they will be extended for a period of 3 years. Under the PSPO, the authorised officers, including Leicestershire Police, designated council staff, enforcement of the alcohol control PSPO, however, will be primarily carried out by Leicestershire Police. They'll retain the authority to arrest individuals in breach of the order where necessary. The continuation of these PSPOs is a vital component of our wider strategy to maintain safe and welcoming public spaces and to support the community wellbeing through proportionate and targeted interventions. So I'll basically commend this to you guys, but if there's any questions, we've got Lee over here, who's our officer.
Lee, do you want to come in and make some comments on this at all? Do you want to give us any general overviews?
Got much more to add. The report gives most of the detail. We do feel that they are required, more for prevention as a cure. But yes, that's all I can really say.
Okay, thank you.
I'll just add that there's also a couple of errors on the dates in the report. So all the dates you find, add 2 days onto them.
But it's not. Okay, thank you very much. Any questions at all? Anybody wants to raise? I know you raised about the dogs before, Simon.
Yeah, mine was a slightly more general point based on some experience of dogs not behaving. They're actually annoying and upsetting residents, and whether there's scope for us being a bit more proactive in education and good dog behaviour. We used to do a lot more of this. I think we probably got cut back. Understand now that the dog contract basically is just to deal with stray dogs, whereas before, we were out there a bit more. It's certainly become apparent to me that the police don't have much resource for this. I think they've got one specialist back in Force HQ in Enderby, which they seem to have to refer to, and it takes about 6 weeks to get an answer, probably just to do with the amount of work. So obviously can't replace if it's a criminal issue, but I think a lot of the time I was particularly focused on this requirement, and we can't go around in every case saying put your dog on the lead, but this PSPO does give authority to officers to ask for that to be done. We can't be everywhere, but I certainly think that if we're aware of a dog in a particular community causing a problem, then we ought to be able to consider using that power that officers have, that if that dog is out, then it ought to be on a lead. So I think this is something for ongoing discussion. Obviously, we need to approve this tonight to put it into policy to continue it, but perhaps it's something, I'm sure it will have a resource to it, but something that we could look at in the coming months.
Chief Exec wants to, that's,
Yes, thank you for that, Councillor Galton. We're happy to take that away and look at that through the budget process to see what resources available.
anybody want to raise anything else at all? Move down.
Yeah, sorry, I was just going to, just a couple more pieces of information. So the alcohol PSPO is subject to a map. And so there is a map that you can find as to where that is affected. The dog controls are for the district. So that's anywhere there's public space that the council is involved in.
Perfect, thank you. Anybody else? No? Me? Can say anything else? No? Happy?
Sort of one other thing that
Sorry,
came out, sorry to prolong it.
Don't worry.
We touched on these, the Manco.
Yeah,
So where there's a Manco, it's not a public space, this does not cover it. So the question that's being asked is, what happens if a dog is committing an offence? Or the owner's committing an offence, whether it be fouling or behaviour of that dog on a Manco. Things we don't have any control over that. We've got a review going on at the moment regarding Mancos. I know it's very advanced, but perhaps we could just ask the question. Can we give the power to a Manco? Or can the Manco ask us to include it? I don't know. If we could just have a look at
do you know
that.
the answer to that?
I don't actually know what that area is that you're
So
referring to.
Mancos are where you've got public open space on a new housing development, but it's not managed by the parish council or by us. It's like a private arrangement, and the residents pay the company to cut the grass and manage the open space. So what's come out of discussions is that this doesn't apply on land maintained by Mancos. So we were kind of asking whether that's an admission or something we could just look at.
It actually says in the paperwork that it covers any public or open land that the public has access to, even if it's only a small section of the public. So if it's a housing estate and that land belongs to the housing company, anybody that has access to it, even if it's only if it's implied, will cover that. So it should cover the areas that you're talking about, as I understand it.
Thank you very much for that. Thank you.
I understand.
Cheers. Okay, any other questions? Any other points? No? You're moving that then, Darren? Is there a seconder? That's the night. All those in favour? Anyone against? That is carried unanimously. We now move on to the item on page 163, which is the Environmental Services Contract Procurement, Technical, Legal and Financial Specialist Support. Dan, that's you again.
In much the same way as Simon's just brought forward his report. So this is for the continued service for our environmental services procurement. So this is to secure legal representation for this process. I think we're looking for £139,000 before VAT. And yeah, so much the same process. So I just commend this report.
Okay, any financial comment from the officers? I know Kat's not here to give any background support on this at all. The recommendations are listed extensively on page 164. It's just been outlined by Councillor Woodywis. Anybody want to make any comments? No? Do you want to form? Okay, it's been moved by Councillor Woodywis. Is there a seconder? Councillor Galton. Okay, all those in favour? Anyone against? That is carried unanimously. We then move on to item on page 169, which is the Symington Building Phase 2 external masonry, window overhaul and roof work and associated works. That's over to you, Jim, to start off with.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, so this is to seek approval for a variation to the existing contract with the preferred contractor for phase 2 of the external masonry, window overhaul, roof work and associated works on the Symington building here in Market Harborough. I think I'd like to say that there's been a lack of investment in the fabric of the building since 2013. There was internal refurbishment completed and that re-roofing the north wing in 2016. There would be health and safety concerns, things like missing slates from the roof, weathered and crumbling stone and brickwork, risk of injury from falling weathered stone, risks of leaking, affecting building users, and as a Grade 2 listed building, formerly a corset factory, the council must ensure its uniqueness is preserved. And I think essential sympathetic repair work would prevent further deterioration, increase its longevity for community use, avoid higher future costs, enhance valued and well-maintained listed property. And I think delaying this work will lead to increased costs and further deterioration. So I think I'm happy to move, Chair.
Okay, Carolyn, do you want to come in and make any comments yourself about the building? So I know we have had one or two people asking why on earth we're spending money on the Simonton building when within 18 months there'll be no Harbour District Council, and are we just preparing it to sell it, which is obviously not the case, but I think it's obviously something we need to address and assure the public about.
Yeah, I mean, other than the points that Councillor Knight has highlighted, I mean, demonstrating from phase 1, which is ongoing at the moment, when we've actually got closer to the building, it's obvious that there's deterioration with the stonework and the brickwork, and there are health and safety concerns that somebody will be injured if the work's not carried out, and sooner rather than later.
I think one thing we were victims of here, if you like, was that well-worn phrase, value engineering. And a lot of this work was looked at years ago, when we had certain figures that were put there, and then obviously certain things, I think I'm correct in saying, were withdrawn. Whether this was, I don't know, but that was one of the items, but certainly some things were withdrawn or reduced in importance or whatever. So obviously where we are with this now is the need to make sure we've got the building protected and the community protected, because obviously we need to make sure that no one's endangered by anything from the building at all. Leah, do you want to come in?
Yeah, and Leader, I suppose those in the room might have spotted we were just discussing whether to raise a point about some of the legal implications, and ultimately if we were to let this building fall into disrepair, we might have to take enforcement action against ourselves, which I don't think would be an ideal position to be in. But Leader, you made the point about the long-term future, given we have got LGR coming, you know, whatever the future for this building, firstly, we shouldn't let it fall into disrepair. It's a community heritage asset. We have tenants, we have responsibilities for those. And anyone that might want to dispose of a building in future wouldn't want to dispose of a building that needs a lot of work done to it. It could make it more challenging. But ultimately, this building can be used on a multi-use basis, and who knows what the future will be. But you want it to be safe and well preserved for the community and for its lifespan.
And I think importantly, it's right at the heart of our community. And we don't want a building that looks shabby in the middle of Market Harborough. But you know, we've got a vibrant town centre, and importantly for us, this is all about investment in our community, our wider community. And I think this is certainly something that's very important. Carolyn, do you need to come back in at all? Anything you want to add?
Is there any question?
Right.
I just add around the finances. It's clearly detailed in the financial implications, the way we're going to pay for this. Effectively, it's asking for environment from some of the forecasting to spend on the depot allocation. The other thing that we do need to recognise, if we do not invest in this building, it will lose value, and we have to maintain that value, not just for our own balance sheet, but for the greater good as well.
Thank you, Clive. Anyone else want to come in at all? No? Okay, any member that wants to make any other comments at all? That's a good.
I think while the scaffolding's up, which I understand is a huge part of the expense, why would, you know, while it's up, we may as well maximise getting the work done. Otherwise, whoever it is may have to put scaffolding up again. So that's not good value for money, is it? So my mind, while we've got the scaffolding in place, let's get the work done. It needs to be done.
I go back to something that was said, and I think it's back to Callum, and I don't think we'd realised as a council the state of deterioration that some of the building, the fabric of the building was actually in, until they got up close and personal with it and could see it at first hand. And I think it's been a very sobering lesson for all of us when they've seen that. And I think the points our officers have raised about the need to protect something that is part of the community, but also protect our community, because, you know, heaven forbid if anyone's walking by and something fell off the building. You know, and I know that sounds dramatic, but I think that's one of the things we have to address. And I think we're doing the right thing. Darren, do you want to come in?
I was to say, so one of the things the public can't see is the rooms that we can't use, like the tower room.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's been shut for use for about a year or so, isn't it? So due to water ingress.
Anybody else want to add anything? Jim, please, yes.
Yeah, I don't think you can stress enough the importance of keeping historic buildings, grade 2 listed buildings in good repair. They are an asset of the district, and as Clive has pointed out, you know, even if the future we as a district council aren't here, it still remains a public asset, and I think it is right that it's our duty to make sure that it's well maintained up to the point at which we are not in control of it.
Are you moving this then, Jim?
Yes, I am happy to move, Chair.
Darren?
I was about to say, as the heritage champion, I should also advocate for everything that Jim's just said.
Perfect. So you, as heritage champion, are you seconding this?
I will second it, yes.
Okay. Simon, anything you want to add? Okay, well, it has been moved and seconded. All those in favour? Anyone against? That is duly carried. I'm not aware of any late business. So on that, thank you very much for your attendance, and I declare the meeting closed.
Thank you all. Good night.